Hello everyone and welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces Talks Music. Today I'm excited to go over an album that has been one of my favorites for quite a few years, probably since the early 90s. And that is Bauhaus' The Sky's Gone Out. This is their third album and it was released in 1982. And this is the album that when I put it on, I want to listen to every track. I don't really skip any tracks on this record, and that is not 100% true for all the Bauhaus records for me. All the other ones I usually skip one or two tracks here and there, but this one I listen to them all. This wasn't my first introduction to the Bauhaus. That actually happened with this single. It got a release. I think I got this at Bow Wow Records. Walked in and I had heard of the Bauhaus through Gothic circles and whatnot, and was able to find this and was very excited about it. 2 tracks. No, I had seen this in The Hunger. That's where I saw it. And then when I saw this single, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the one from The Hunger. And I grabbed this up. So this was my first introduction. 2 songs, Bela Lugosi's Dead and Boys. And then I went on a trip with a friend to Houston. And while I was there, I stopped at a music store and found a copy of The Sky's Gone Out on CD and grabbed it right up. And that's what we listened to for that whole trip, over and over and over again. So for me, The Sky's Gone Out is always connected to Houston, Texas, which is just because of where I was when I listened to it. There's no musical connection that I can really make. Yeah, and it just seems to me kind of to be the quintessential Gothic rock record. When I look back in retrospect, I really love the every ebb and flow of this record. It's absolutely incredible. All right, let's talk about the personnel that recorded this album. The vocals are by Peter Murphy, who to me always sounded like a darker David Bowie. He does vocals and additional guitar. And then guitar was done by Daniel Ash. He also did backing vocals on Exquisite Corpse, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. He also did the album cover painting, which is very cool. David J. played bass and again did backing vocals on Exquisite Corpse. And incidentally, David J. Haskins wrote a book about the Bauhaus, which I found absolutely incredible. Really enjoyable read. Who Killed Mr. Moonlight, Bauhaus, Black Magic, and Benediction by David J. Haskins. If you get a chance to pick this up, I highly recommend you do. It's a good read. Really a lot of fun. Great stuff about the Bauhaus, but he also talks about a lot of other people in the scene at the time. Really, really fun read. And finally, Kevin Haskins, who is David J's brother, does drums and congas on Third Uncle. All right, let's look at the tracks here. This opens with Third Uncle, which is a cover of a Brian Eno song. And this is the most, it starts with David J's bass, and then the entire band kicks in, and there's this weird flange on Daniel Ash's guitar, and the rhythm is fast and punky. It's really incredible. This is, of course, a cover of a Brian Eno song, and I recently, probably a couple of years back, went and listened to the Brian Eno version of this. I'd never done that before, and the Brian Eno version of this is really good. Brian Eno is a musician that I'd like to get more into. I was surprised by how poppy and punky Brian Eno's version of this was, and it was recorded way earlier than the Bauhaus version. But this sets the tone of the record. It starts off so wild, and the guitar, Daniel Ash's guitar, and I think Peter's playing on this one. I'd have to guess because I feel like there's 2 guitars, or they could have multi-layered the track, but the guitar in this is incredible. Just heavy wall of sound guitar that this track is worth the price of admission alone. Really incredible. Then we get the Silent Hedges, which starts a little slower with some acoustic kind of guitar picking. That really kind of sets that goth tone that we expect from early '80s goth works. But eventually, again, David J's bass comes in, and the bass line here is incredible. It has this looping round feel to it that I really love. So this song eventually becomes really heavy, which is kind of a theme of this whole first side, because then we get In the Night, which is this kind of another big rocker. This is the closest, I think, on this album that they get to glam rock, is In the Night. But even then, you still get these real gothic moments, like the end when Peter does this descending vocal line on all the music stops, and he just gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and then all the music kicks back in. It's really a lot of fun. Everything slows down a little bit for Swing the Heartache, but this is such a unique tune. The drums and the guitars in this do stuff that you're not going to hear anywhere else. It's really a wild song. They re-recorded Spirit for this record, and this is my favorite version of it. It flows better than the single version, but this is the first version I heard, so maybe I'm just biased towards it. And then we get to the Three Shadows, and this is the one that Jason, my brother, who used to also be a part of this channel, would say the album kind of starts to lose itself for a minute, and I really disagree with that. This was probably, when I was growing up, and I was a Gothic kid in the early '90s. One of my favorite parts of this whole record, the Three Shadows, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3, and each one takes a step up. The Three Shadows Part 1 is a Gothic instrumental, and I remember learning to play this on the guitar because I liked it so much. It's got so much atmosphere. It really is a very interesting tune. And then we get this weird, it almost feels like a dark waltz, and I'm not even sure this is in 3/4. But yeah, the Three Shadows Part 2, we introduce the vocals. It feels like this kind of old world dark vampire song. It's really incredible. And then the third one introduces this jangly piano, and each time it takes this level up. And in the third one, it's Peter's voice, and of course the musicians take it up a level, but Peter's voice goes up into a higher register, and it's absolutely incredible. And the lyrics are super creepy and super weird. And yeah, really, side 2 of this album has a completely different style to side 1, but for me they both work dramatically well, because we move on from the Three Shadows to All We Ever Wanted Was Everything, which first off is a great title. It's the great first line of a song. I think David J plays like a stand-up bass or a fretless bass for this, and it really works beautifully. The bass line in this is incredible. And just the idea, for me, it was always about youth that kind of feel like they own the world and want to take over the world, but have to realize that as they grow, they didn't have or take anything, and how much of a letdown that is. Really, really love that tune. And then we end with Exquisite Corpse, which could be argued as the kind of weakest song on the album. It is definitely like tiny vignettes of songs stuck together, but I always really loved it. And some of the brightest moments on the album come from this little medley of songs, including Daniel Ash and David J doing backing vocals on a part that sounds exactly like Tones on Tail to me. I think this is the first time we hear that real Tones on Tail, eventually to become Love in the Rockets sound, is on this little medley at the end of The Sky's Gone Out. But we also get, at one point, I guess it's Peter, I don't even know if it is, but screaming "The Sky's Gone Out" over and over again, just at the top of his lungs. It's wild. It's really a huge epic moment on this record, and I think it's a great way to end it out. Really, truly. This is my favorite Bauhaus record. Many of the songs from this record would go on my top 10 if I made a top 10 favorite Bauhaus songs. And a lot of other Bauhaus songs would as well. I really enjoy the Bauhaus, but it was this album that I felt came together as a whole much better than all the other ones. There's really no moment worth skipping on this record. All of it is a really, really great listen. All right, that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.